Leap! 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 Leap!
Very pretty leaping dad. Macho ballerina.
It's a lord of leaping.
A lord. So we are making bracelets and necklaces. And this bracelet says Mila with a little unicorn. You love it?
No, I don't.
You don't?
I'm just kidding.
I am. Yes, I am. I don't have to talk during a video. I'm just recording you doing your thing. There's the Winter Quarters Temple. And this is Winter Quarters. The first stop of this trip was Winter Quarters, which is in Nebraska. The story behind the church obtaining that land was really special because the church really wanted that land for the temple, and the land was actually owned by a nunnery, and the nunnery decided to just give the church the land when the church asked for it. However, some people, I don't know who, sort of demanded that the church should have to pay something, and so the nunnery actually sold the church the land for $1. And so they got the land, and they went to build the temple on a portion of that land, which was actually a section of the cemetery, which is there. And so we got permission from these people's family members to move their bodies off of the portion of the land that we wanted to build the temple, and they have been relocated to other sections of the cemetery, or those graves have little fences around them. So when you go to Winter Quarters and you're walking around the cemetery, you see some spots that have, or some graves that have little fences around them. Those are the bodies that used to be at the foundation of the temple, which now stands there. The best part, obviously, is the statue that is of a father and a mother bearing their young child. And what I like about that statue is that the feet of the father are facing the celestial room of the temple. On the back of the father and the mother, on the back of the statue, is a tree, or what looks like a tree. And on the windows of the celestial room of the temple is a tree. After our visit to Winter Quarters, we were in the parking lot, and Milani and I decided to take a shower, but the water heater wasn't working, and so we had to take a cold shower, and Milani was screaming so hard. I've never seen her scream so hard, and she almost threw up. She was screaming so hard. She almost threw up multiple times from screaming so hard. I honestly would not be surprised if somebody out there thought we were murdering a child in the RV, because she was screaming just so hard. And the rest of the trip, she was traumatized, and every time I tried to get her to take a shower, she would get scared and ask me if the water was going to be cold. So that was kind of funny.
Look at that.
Our next stop was Independence, Missouri, which is within Jackson County, Missouri, which church historians believe is where the Garden of Eden was. Oh wow, there's rocking chairs and a fireplace and toys. Whoa! We then went to Liberty Jail, which is where Joseph Smith was incarcerated. And when we were there, Renee picked a little tulip for Milani, and she later ate it, and it made her sick. It was at Liberty Jail that Milani really felt the spirit and started recognizing that spirit throughout the rest of the trip. Because when we were there, we watched a little video on Christ's crucifixion and then his resurrection. And later that evening, Milani was crying. She said, "My tears are out because I'm happy that Jesus came back to life." And so we said a little prayer of gratitude, just thanking Heavenly Father for Christ's atonement and his resurrection. Then we were on our way to Adam-on-Diamond, which is the land where Adam dwelt after he and Eve were cast out from the Garden of Eden. And my dad decided, he had a feeling, hey, maybe we should go to Far West first. And so we actually turned back and went to Far West, which is just a site, grounds for a temple that was dedicated, that Joseph Smith dedicated, that the temple has not been built. But there are 4 cornerstones that were placed there, and you can see the 4 cornerstones that were placed, and there's a little monument there. But when we got there, there was like a huge crowd that was gathering, and so we get out, and 5 minutes after we had arrived, this little dedicatory anniversary thing, they put on a little performance, and it was so sweet. It was kind of fun that we were gonna go to Adam-on-Diamond first, but we decided, my dad felt like we should go to Far West instead, and we ended up being able to watch this cute little reenactment of the dedication of the Far West temple site. And then afterwards, it was really funny because we still wanted to go see Adam-on-Diamond, but it was really overcast and we couldn't see where the sun was. But my dad had decided that the sun had set already and that we should go find a camp spot. And on our way to the camp spot, we got lost and had to turn around, I think, 2 or 3 times. And then as we're driving down this big long road, I see that the sun is still up in the sky because it starts peeking through the clouds. And I'm like, hey, the sun's still up. Let's go to Adam-on-Diamond. And so then we had to turn around another couple times to try and get it right. And by the time we got to Adam-on-Diamond, we got there when the sun had already set and it was already starting to get dark. So you couldn't see it super clearly, but it was still beautiful. And it was really cool that we got to see that too. Carthage Jail was probably the hardest emotionally for me. It's definitely one that will make you cry, where the prophet Joseph Smith and Hyrum Smith were martyred. And it was definitely surreal standing in the room where it happened and putting my finger in that bullet hole in the very door that the bullet went through that killed Hyrum Smith. And what is very interesting about this is that people lived in that house after the fact, and they never replaced the door, which is really interesting. You can see where it was damaged by the mob who tried to break in, and it's very interesting that the people didn't fix it up or replace it. But it was definitely a surreal experience standing in that room where it happened, and also going down and standing next to the well, which is where Joseph Smith fell from the window. It was very sad. It made me cry, and it's definitely an experience that I would only do once. Necessary, you have to go to Carthage Jail, but I'm only going to do that once. Not doing that again.
So you can see the Nauvoo Temple from here.
Nauvoo was everything I ever dreamed it would be and more. And I could have easily spent the entire trip just right there in Nauvoo. I never wanted to leave. I could live there for the rest of my life. Like, the spirit there was unlike any spirit I've ever experienced before, and I'm convinced that that's where the city of Enoch was. It was just, the place was just perfection. It's right there on the Mississippi River with the most beautiful view, and it's just gorgeous. And what really just amazed me and what really stood out to me is how preserved Nauvoo is and was. Like, everything, the buildings, they're still there, and I mean, a lot of them have been rebuilt, but the foundations were all there. And why? You know, it made me wonder, why didn't anybody come and build a little city there after the saints left? But no, the Lord preserved that site and preserved that city, and now we get to tour it and experience Nauvoo the way that it was 200 years ago. And it was just a very, very special experience, very, very spiritual. I really liked walking the Trail of Tears, which was later renamed to the Trail of Hope by President Hinckley. It's the famous story where all of the saints had packed up their wagons, and they all walked down Parley Street, and they walked down to the river, and that's where they crossed the Mississippi River, and it was just a very spiritual experience. They have plaques all along the road where you get to read different people's accounts and experiences, and it was just a very special place, very special experience, and a place that I will hold close to my heart.
All right, Milani asked, do you have to go potty? Okay, well, let's go potty. Milani asked to see the gun store first, so we're gonna go and see the guns.
Yeah, but actually I'm gonna go to potty.
Oh, okay, actually we're gonna go to potty.
Oh, and I really need to go pee.
Okay, let's go. Let's go, let's go. Run, 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 let's go, go, go.
Mom, run fast.
Oh, okay, faster, okay.
Powder caps.
You want to shoot a gun? Okay.
And then you would load them with the ball, the gunpowder, the ball.
All right, Milani is sitting on this tree stump. Oh, look at you.
See what you got. What do you get?
I'm a brick.
And
Good, how are you?
We are at Kirtland, and we're having a race to see who can get the braids in faster. Mama or Mommy? And Milani's, yeah, she's ready to win. She loves to win. And we're sitting at Kirtland, Ohio, at the temple, which is right there. And we got all the way here, and it's closed.
You want an Elsa braid?
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna do 2 pigtails.
No, look.
My Little Pony.
How do you turn it off?
Do you want My Little Pony?
Look.
So we are walking to see the very first temple of the dispensation, of this dispensation, the original temple. Yes, here is the door and the doorknob. Oh my gosh.
When we went to Kirtland, our first stop was the Kirtland Temple, and we were pretty bummed to find out that it was closed, and so we decided to go on with our trip and come back to do Kirtland Temple later. But while we were in Kirtland, we did go and do the tours of the Newell K.
There
Whitney
sure is
store
water.
and Newell K. Whitney's house, and where Joseph and Emma first lived when they moved to Kirtland, and that is where they had their first baby that survived childbirth. So it was a really cool place to visit. Some really cool stuff happened there, and the spirit was very strong.
We're standing in the first church headquarters.
Yeah, well, when the Whitney
Chew tobacco, chew tobacco, chew tobacco. Speed.
Samuel, my brother, took over the store, so I didn't know what it was.
What did you find? Pretty pretty rocks. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Renee. Happy birthday to you. Did you make a wish?
Oh, I did it before you let them up.
Oh, okay.
Palmyra was probably my second favorite stop of the trip, mostly because I think that that's where some of the most exciting aspects and events of church history took place. We got to see the Joseph Smith's house where he grew up, and these houses were built on the actual foundations. So the houses that we were in were not original, but the foundations were, so it was cool to see that that's exactly where it was.
Joseph hid the plates under these bricks. The golden plates. You want to hold that?
He's buried in town.
Alvin's tree that they buried when he
We
died.
can give you a map.
Going for a dip.
The Sacred Grove was just unbelievable. It was absolutely insane. It was kind of a cold and dreary day when we first got there, but as we walked out to the grove, the sun peeked out through the clouds and the sky cleared up and the sun came out. And with the sun coming out, you could see the life on the trees. So you could see the little tiny green buds coming out on the trees and the tiny green leaves, and the birds were singing, and it was just such a special experience. It felt very similar to being in the celestial room of the temple.
Does that sound like a monkey to you, Mila? Alright, we're in the middle of the Sacred Grove. I have no idea where the exit is. Not a soul to be seen or heard. And Renee left me with Malachi to run to the bathroom, and he took the carrier. And I'm walking out here, and Malachi is getting heavy. And luckily, we brought these blankets because we were freezing. And so I made a little makeshift carrier. Carrying Malachi in the blanket because my arms are tired.
Get me. Hey, look. Hey, see me.
It does.
Yeah.
It does see you.
So, Jesus' special prophet is here. That's why I don't see Jesus.
We felt like we were lost for a while.
I know, I felt it too.
Alright, well, we're going to a bookstore where the Book of Mormon was printed.
Also, while we were in Palmyra, we got to stop by the old bookstore where the Book of Mormon was printed, and it's still there. You can walk into where the original store stood, and you can tour it, and you can see where some of the original flooring is still there, as well as some of the original ink splatters are there, and the original brick on the outside of the building. And so it was really cool to walk around in there and see where the Book of Mormon was first printed. And while we were there in town in Palmyra, we found Alvin's grave, which was in this teeny tiny little cemetery just around the corner behind one of the churches. And you could go up to his headstone, and on the back you can see his original headstone,
On the back.
as well as a more modern, updated headstone. And after visiting Alvin Smith's grave, we went to the Hill Cumorah.
We're taking turns pushing Malachi because he's so heavy. So this must be what the Hill Cumorah looked like before they excavated it, or whatever you call it, landscaped. Alright, we made it to the top, and it is a gorgeous view from the top here. I Can't imagine what this place would look like in the fall. Up at the top is my arms out. Okay, now roll. There goes Amma. Amma's rolling downhill, Kamara. Go, Mila, go! Go, go! Yeah. So we're here at the Whitmer Farm, which is where the church was organized over there.
Following our visit to Palmyra, New York, we went to Fayette, New York, which is where the Peter Whitmer farm is. And the story behind this farm is really neat, where Oliver Cowdery and Joseph Smith asked David Whitmer, Peter Whitmer's son, if they could come and reside with them while they finished translating the Book of Mormon. And Peter Whitmer at first declined their request because there was just too much plowing to do. And so David Whitmer said a prayer that Heavenly Father, if it was Heavenly Father's will, that he would provide a way for Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery to come to their farm and to finish translating the Book of Mormon. And the very next day, Peter Whitmer and David Whitmer get up to go out to plow, and the entire field has been plowed overnight. And so it was just a really huge miracle and a testimony to both David and Peter Whitmer that this was God's work. And so that's not only where the translation of the Book of Mormon finished, it's also where the organization of the church was formed.
All right, we're having breakfast in Ithaca, New York, and Boppy can't figure out how to get this bunk up. It broke. And so he's on the phone trying to figure it out. Do you remember where we are? Thick trees, that thick forest all around us. When it's full, it's just so green. Even the grass is greener than it is in Utah. Like, that is just such green grass, and they don't even use sprinklers. Can I use the microwave? So we're here at the Priesthood Restoration Site in Pennsylvania.
You talk and I will hold it.
Oh, Milani wants the cord.
Now talk.
Okay, we're here at the Priesthood Restoration Site in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Yeah, Milani wants
Hold it from right here, baby.
Is this?
It's a time tunnel.
We're going back in time. So this was the original road and highway. And the church built that highway over there so that we could keep this original highway. Yeah, but it was built on the original foundation. So that foundation is original. All right, go. Careful with Malachi.
I can't with that.
Yeah. You just chilling on this step?
Then we got to go to Harmony,
Of Joseph and
Pennsylvania,
Emma's
which is no longer called Harmony, but I don't remember what it's called now. And we got to see the site of where the priesthood restoration took place. They call it the Second Sacred Grove or something like that, because it's also a very sacred place, and you can walk around and it feels very similar to the Sacred Grove. It's just very peaceful, lots of trees and little paths that you can walk through where the priesthood restoration took place. And also at this site is where Emma grew up, her house,
That's in really
Isaac
good
Hale's
condition.
house. And The
leaping
foundation
across the
is
highway.
original, the house is not. However, they were able to confirm that the foundation was original, and they were able to recover some dishes and other things from the basement. And then down the highway, which is the original highway, is Emma and Joseph Smith's house, which was also built on the foundation. And the house had been burned down, but there's a little like iron thing in the fireplace, which is original to the home. And this home, I felt like the thing that really stood out to me was just the feeling of happiness. I feel like Joseph and Emma's happiest days were probably in that home. I don't know why, it really felt like that. They were newlyweds, and everything was probably just really new and exciting for them, and I just feel like those were probably their happiest days. However, they were probably one of their most painful days as well, because in this home is where they lost their firstborn child, and their baby is buried not far from this house. It's down the highway a little bit in a cemetery, and we also got to see that as well.
This is what it looks like.
The guy died, and his wife, his friend's heart gets put in him.
Came out of the jar that she picked. She had done, it's familiar. Yeah, familiar, and she knew how to cook that way.
And then the one the prophet used and all of the folks that went up to.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. One little kid said, oh, why it was the best room in the house. The light is so perfect. And it's just a lovely room. But this also is where
Stand here when he preached.
Stay there, I'll take your picture.
They
Stay right here.
They, or I can take a picture of all of them.
Not in the right spot.
Not the right spot. No, I bet there's a box around somewhere. They like boxes.
What do you think, bro? Okay, so here we go. Sandstone, the Kirtland Temple 2 miles north. So it's original sandstone rubble wall around windows. So this is an interesting bathroom because there's stalls, but no doors on the stalls. And right on the bathroom door is a tornado shelter.
Like our temple. On the side of the rock, that's how they cut it. They put the big drill in there, and then they split the rock. Please, Milani, do you see the temple? How are we going in? After the
GoPro, stop recording. GoPro, stop recording.
So this is the Morley farm.
It's not.
Probably was here at the time. My guess is that one.
So Milani and I just made a little Kirtland Temple model out of paper.
Canesville Tabernacle was where Brigham Young was voted in as the following president and prophet of the church, following the death of Joseph Smith.
Okay, go ahead and taste it, Mila. Mila. Gotta get it all the way in your mouth.
We were able to make a quick stop at Martin's Cove, and we had to make the walk really, really fast because the sun was setting. So we were able to do the cove probably in about an hour or an hour and a half. But you have to push the hand carts out to the cove, and then you get to walk through the cove. And down by the cove, they have a little monument for the 3 men who carried the whole company across the Sweetwater crossing. And it was a very spiritual experience. Sad, very sad, but also very inspiring.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
We had to push it in a lot. You and AJ got to ride.
Hey,
Malachi.
Courtney, okay, walk your 10 feet. We'll pretend like it was a long trek.
I hate to say he did it.
This is all he did.
oh, pretty rock, Mila.
So this is the Sweetwater. And we're walking down to this monument of the tribute to the 3 boys who carried the entire company across the freezing river.
You want to get it into light.
You can do it, Mila. Good girl. Push it this way. Push it this way. Good girl, Milani. Yes, do it. You're doing it. This is what the pioneers had to do.